We're going to go into the security area of San Quentin. In the unlikely event that you're taken hostage while
San Quentin. It's more than just a prison. It's a legend, a fortress of fear perched on the edge of the San Francisco Bay. Its silhouette, a stark warning against the glittering skyline. For over 170 years, its walls have contained some of the most infamous and dangerous criminals in America's history. But to truly understand the beast that is San Quentin, we have to peel back the layers of its blood-soaked past and stare directly into the harsh realities of life within its walls. A brutal beginning. The story of San Quentin begins not with bricks and mortar, but with the desperate, chaotic measures of the California gold rush. The sudden influx of prospectors and pioneers hoping to strike it rich brought with it a surge in crime that the fledgling state was utterly ill-equipped to handle. With local jails overflowing, the authorities resorted to housing inmates on decrepit, rotting prison ships anchored in the bay, floating dens of misery and disease that were as inhumane as they were insecure. Imagine the squalor, the stench, and the constant fear aboard these floating jails, where survival was a daily struggle against sickness and violence. It was a disastrous temporary solution, and in 1854, the state finally opened the iron doors to its first official prison, which would become its oldest and most notorious correctional facility. The early years of San Quentin were a brutal chapter in the history of American penology, quickly earning it the grim nickname, the Arena, among those who knew its horrors best. The very concept of rehabilitation was non-existent. This was a place of pure, unadulterated punishment. Discipline was meted out with a ferocity that bordered on the barbaric. Floggings were a common spectacle, as were the dreaded shower baths, where inmates were blasted with high-pressure water hoses until they were bruised, broken, and sometimes unconscious. Public hangings were not somber, state-sanctioned duties performed in private. They were morbid shows, drawing crowds eager for a spectacle. Between 1893 and 1942, the gallows at San Quentin saw the end of 215 lives, their necks snapped by the hangman's noose. The psychological toll of this grim work was immense, a slow-burning madness that proved that in San Quentin, no one was safe. Take Warden Amos Lunt, a man who conducted 24 hangings in just 5 years. He warned his successor about the haunting voices and terrifying hallucinations that plagued him, a direct consequence of his duties. Lunt eventually ended up in an asylum himself, a living testament to the fact that the crushing trauma of San Quentin was not confined to its inmates. It consumed its keepers, too. In the Grim Reaper's shadow. The methods of execution evolved, but the grim reality of death row was always a constant. In 1938, the gas chamber was introduced, a supposedly more humane alternative to hanging. The first to test its efficacy was a pig, which, in a grotesque twist of irony, took a staggering 34 excruciating minutes to die. So much for progress. In a story of cruel fate, an inmate named Alfred Wells, who had ironically helped construct the very gas chamber, found himself sentenced to death within it. After being paroled for armed robbery, a violent family dispute over his relationship with his half-sister drove him to commit a triple murder. He returned to San Quentin not as a laborer, but as a condemned man. And in 1942, he met his end in the machine he helped build. It was a chilling, real-life example of a man literally digging his own grave. Life on death row was, in itself, a unique form of torture. This wasn't one single block, but a tiered system of damnation. The best you could hope for was North Seg, a quiet section for inmates who kept their heads down. Then there was the East Block, a massive 5-tiered structure housing over 500 men in single cells, a concrete beehive of despair. But the deepest level of hell was the Adjustment Center, reserved for the worst of the worst. These men were deemed too violent for any other part of the prison. Their cells had solid cement doors, a feature installed after inmates developed the lovely habit of throwing feces at the guards. The unwritten laws of the yard. For the men who call San Quentin home, every day is a test, a delicate and deadly dance on the razor's edge of a treacherous social hierarchy. The official rulebook is one thing. The unwritten laws of the yard are what truly govern life and death. Survival here begins the moment you arrive. Your first day is a blur of institutional processing, a security clearance more intimate than a colonoscopy, ending with a fashion downgrade to basic blue denim. As you walk the echoing halls to your new home, a 4 by 10-foot cell barely larger than a parking space, the reality sinks in. You are immediately subjected to grueling once-overs from your new neighbors, a silent and predatory assessment, sometimes punctuated by casual threats to establish dominance from the outset. Welcome to your new home. Friendly advice: avoid all discussion of politics, religion, or who controls the TV remote, as these are all tripwires for explosive conflict. In this world, where weakness is an open invitation for predation, projecting an aura of strength is paramount. This isn't about being the loudest or most aggressive. It's about carrying yourself with a quiet confidence that signals you are not an easy target. Physical fitness becomes a critical component of this projection. It isn't just a hobby, it's a full-time job. Inmates commit to extreme routines, like hundreds of burpees every single day, not just for health, but to build a physical deterrent. Being in peak shape sends a clear, unspoken message. Preying on me will come at a very high cost. Gangs are an unavoidable, all-powerful reality. Formidable factions like the Aryan Brotherhood, Black Guerrilla Family, Mexican Mafia, and the Nuestra Familia are not just street gangs. They are sophisticated, highly organized shadow governments. Their ironclad codes and extreme ideologies dictate every single aspect of an inmate's life. Who you can talk to, where you can sit, which shower you can use, and even which way you can walk around the yard. Violating these laws, spoken or unspoken, is met with swift and brutal retribution that makes solitary confinement seem like a vacation. For a new inmate, navigating this complex web is a perilous undertaking. Choosing to align with a gang can offer protection, but it also paints a permanent target on your back for rival factions. Remaining neutral is often considered the safest bet, but as the grim wisdom of San Quentin dictates, choosing no side is the quickest way to stand completely alone, vulnerable to anyone and everyone. Alliances, even personal friendships, are as stable as a house of cards in a wind tunnel. Trust is the most valuable and scarce commodity. Therefore, the best advice is to mind your own business, but if trouble finds you, you must be prepared. The smart inmate learns to diffuse situations with words, not fists. After all, a black eye heals much faster than a stab wound from a prison-made shiv. A glimmer of hope. But the story of San Quentin is not just one of violence. It is also a story of survival, of the human spirit's remarkable ability to endure. In 1969, in a moment that has since become iconic, Johnny Cash performed live at the prison. The resulting album, Johnny Cash at San Quentin, became one of his most legendary records. For a brief moment, the sound of his guitar and his raw, rebellious lyrics cut through the oppressive atmosphere, offering a fleeting sense of freedom and humanity. He even debuted the smash hit A Boy Named Sue for the inmates, a performance that crackled with an energy that could only come from a room full of men who understood what it meant to fight for your identity. In recent years, a new sound has begun to echo through the halls of San Quentin, the sound of change. A growing emphasis on rehabilitation has led to the creation of a wide range of programs designed to help inmates turn their lives around. The Prison University project has enabled thousands of inmates to earn college credits, with some even obtaining degrees behind bars. The Last Mile, another innovative program, teaches inmates how to code and develop apps, opening up a world of possibilities in the tech industry. Kenyatta Leal, a former participant, went from serving a life sentence to becoming a manager at a tech company after his release, a powerful example of the program's success. These initiatives are more than just a way to pass the time. They are a lifeline, a beacon of hope in a place long defined by its darkness. The pandemic and the end of an era. The COVID-19 pandemic brought a new set of challenges to San Quentin. The overcrowded conditions turned the prison into a petri dish, and a major outbreak in 2020 saw over 1,000 inmates test positive, creating a humanitarian crisis. The virus swept through the facility, a terrifying, invisible threat in a place where social distancing was an unrelatable joke. But even as the prison grappled with this modern plague, a historic shift was underway. In 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom placed a moratorium on the death penalty in California, calling it state-sponsored premeditated murder. The state's death row, once the largest in the Western Hemisphere, is slowly being dismantled. Eligible death row inmates can now be moved to general population areas, giving them access to jobs and rehabilitation programs, a chance to live rather than simply wait to die. It's a symbolic end to a dark chapter and a sign that California is moving towards a more enlightened approach to criminal justice. The future of San Quentin remains unwritten. The old, decaying cell blocks are a constant reminder of its brutal past. But the new focus on rehabilitation offers a glimmer of hope. The road to reform will be long, but for the men locked within its walls, it is a journey worth taking. For in the end, the story of San Quentin isn't just about a prison. It's a story of the human condition itself, about our capacity for both great good and great evil, our ability to find hope in the face of despair, and our enduring quest for redemption.